still haven't figured all this out. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Jobs, Economic Development, and the Economy. This is our second gathering for the year, and I'd like to thank our Vice Chair, Ms. Grove, Mr. Morrell, Mr. Marty Block for being here, and we can go ahead and call the roll.
V. Manuel Perez.
Here.
Grove. Here. Bell. Block. Here. Wesso. Morrell.
Here. If we could have our sergeant call our other members as we proceed. And is there a motion to move the consent calendar?
Move. Second.
Second, thank you. I'd like to offer the opportunity for our Republican colleagues, if they like, to add on as a joint author to either bill or both of the bills for the consent calendar. Would you like to be? Yeah. So that would be 1409 and 1410. Like to be joint authors? Vice Chair, Mr. Morrell, would like to be a joint author on both bills? Sure? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So the entire committee, both Republicans and Democrats, will be sharing those bills as joint authors. And if we could go ahead and move forward with Mr. Henry Perea, AB 150, Small Business and DVBE Contract Participation Goals. Good morning, Mr. Perea.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here on time.
Yeah.
And we're ready when you are.
I do my best to be on time. I know what it's like to chair a committee when everybody shows up half an hour late. So,
well, thanks for being here.
Mr. Chairman and members, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present my bill, AB 150. AB 150 requires state contracts to have the rate of small business participation to be at least 25%. AB 150 would codify the 4 executive orders that specify goals for small businesses and disabled veteran businesses enterprises participation in the state procurement contracts. It would also require that any state agency, department, board, or commission that has not achieved its 25% goal to submit an implementation and corrective action plan that would help them meet the small business contracting requirements the following year. It's no secret that just to kind of give you a flavor of what's happening in the Central Valley and what's particularly in my assembly district, we have some cities that are over 40%. Cities like Mendota, Fireball, San Joaquin, and my assembly district as a whole is at about 19% unemployment rate. So, I hold the belief that, that it's really the private sector that drives job creation. However, I believe that government can set the conditions for either job growth or for job hindrance. And so I think that what this bill does is that it allows for small business owners to become much more competitive in trying to access state contracts. And so I think by codifying these executive orders, it provides that access. But of course, we have to go beyond that. We then have to make sure that the information is out and that we educate our small business owners on how the procurement process works. And so I will leave it at that, and I'll take any questions and just respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Do you have any witnesses to provide testimony and support?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, members, Chris McKaylee on behalf of Natoma Technologies, which is a certified small business based here in Sacramento. While you probably haven't heard their name, you've seen their work. The governor's e-budget on the DOF website, CalVoter on the Secretary of State website are examples of their systems integration work for the state of California. And we would encourage codification of the executive order. In past years, the state has exceeded it. Your analysis cites the 28%, but I think in the most recent information, the 8-9 year, it dropped to 23%. As the Assemblyman pointed out, I think small business is a real opportunity for job creation, while large corporations do a lot of business. It's the small ones who generate the significant number of jobs. So we would like to see the state to encourage the use of small business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just maybe make one more note, and that is the committee analysis reflects some suggested amendments, and I will be taking those amendments in the business and professions should this pass today.
Thank you. Any witnesses in opposition?
We have Jerry, the chair of California Small Businesses.
Oh, great. We do have one in support.
In support? Okay, sure.
Sure, not a problem.
Just in time. No worries. For the record, if you can state your name.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members, for the opportunity to represent California Small Business Association. I'm Jerry Bircher. I own a little office supply company in Rancho Cordova, so I am a small business in the state, and chairman of the California Small Business Association. We advocate for 200,000 California small business owners on their behalf. Small business earning state procurement dollars is one of the easiest and most inexpensive and most immediate ways we can help to increase sales for small business and boost job creation. This is because of the unique way contracting opportunities can stimulate job growth for small businesses. When large businesses get state procurement dollars, they can potentially absorb the new work into their current workforce. When small business gets state procurement dollars, they must staff up to meet the increased demand. Perhaps the biggest benefit to small business will be the return of customers to their businesses as job creation puts wages in the pockets of consumers, and consumers are once again able to afford and buy goods and services. We must all remember that it's not about a handout for small business or even a hand up. It's about transparency, accountability, competition for state taxpayer dollars, and ultimately California job creation. CSBA strongly supports this bill.
Well, thank you, sir. Did you have a chance to catch your breath there?
No. I do have something that I would like to leave behind. It's the economic impact of small business and disabled veteran business enterprise program on the state of California. It was commissioned by Department of General Services in 2009, and it shows that what happens from the time dollars are spent with a small business through the taxes, through everything else that happens with small business.
Appreciate that piece of information. We'll definitely take a look at that. Is there any other witnesses in support? Are there any witnesses in opposition? I'd like to open it up to our members. If there are any questions, Madam Vice Chair or Mr. Morrell or Mr. Marty Block. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question for you, Mr. Pereira. I thank you for bringing this bill forward. I think that small business is the backbone of our economy, and I appreciate your efforts in this matter.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Mr. Morrell.
Yeah, I likewise appreciate it. You know, my first initial thought is I'm positively for this bill and definitely against it. And what I mean by that is I like that it's a good first step, but I just I'm struggling right now which way to go on this, just because being from small business all my life, I wish we could get that 25% up to 75%, you know? And yeah.
Have something that's doable.
Yeah, well, no, and that's prudence. So thank you.
There's a motion, there's a second. Any other questions from members here at the dais? Well, let me just say, Mr. Pereira, I also appreciate your bill. I think it's a great bill, knowing that the economy, the backbone of the economy are small businesses. And quite frankly, as you mentioned, I do agree with you that we, as government officials, need to be partners with our business community, and this is one way in which we can do so. So with that being said, we have a first and a second. If we can call the roll.
Villamil Perez.
Aye.
Aye. Grove. Aye. Bell. Block. Aye. Wesso. Aye. Morrell. Abstain. It's 4-0.
4-0. And do we have enough to move the bill forward? Okay. Your bill is out, Mr. Pereira. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing this bill on the floor. Morrell, would you like to go next? It's a short agenda today. Hopefully we can get through today in 1 hour. So, Mr. Morrell, you will be taking up AB 541, California Small Business Board and Permit Streamlining.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Well, over the last 20 years, regulations have been created in California, and often in a vacuum, as we know, without proper perspective on how the impact will affect the business environment. This sometimes is haphazard nature of regulation has led to many unintended consequences for our state. And as of now, it's rated 49th so far as difficult regulations, as I think we all have experienced. Last year, according to the California Association of Independent Businesses, California small businesses, which average 5.8 employees, comprise 98% of all businesses in our state. But yet we provide 82% of the private job sectors and 75% of the state's gross state products. Clearly, small businesses are the driving force of our economy, but instead of our state fostering the growth of small businesses, we are seeing businesses flee California. The governors of Texas, Ohio, and Florida have recruited businesses from California to set up shop in their own state. This is the economic recovery strategy for their states. California will continue down this path of lagging in the economy if we continue to lose more jobs, and that means that our economy will be slow to recover. With small business being such a driving factor in our economy, we must identify what is standing in the way of small businesses if we hope to turn our economy around. AB 541 will accomplish this task, and the California Small Business Board with the job of identifying rules and regulations that are preventing the establishment and growth of small businesses in California. AB 541 is crucial in identifying the roadblocks that are preventing small businesses from opening their doors and keeping their doors open. This bill will help identify what hurdles small businesses face. In identifying the problems, we will be able to take action to keep businesses in California. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for your time. I respectfully request your aye vote on this important measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrell. Any witnesses in support of the measure?
Looks like she got held up in her other committee.
She got held up?
Yeah, none, sir.
No problem. Any witnesses in opposition of the measure? Support for Mr. Morrell's bill? No worries. It seems to be just the sign of the day today.
I know.
No
Thank you.
worries.
I'm very sorry. Lori Kammer on behalf of Small Business California and the California Coalition of Small and Disabled Veteran Businesses, very much in support of this bill.
Thank you. Anyone here in opposition to the bill? Any questions from members here at the dais? Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Mr. Morrell, this is the second good bill that I've heard today, and I appreciate you bringing it forward.
Any other questions, thoughts? Mr. Morrell, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind adding me to the list as a joint author.
I'd be honored to do that. Thank you.
I'd love to do that. And as well, if you're interested in members co-authoring with you on this bill.
I'd like that. I'd appreciate that even more. Thank you.
Any members here like to be added on as a co-author?
I'd like to be added.
Thanks.
Members? No? Okay. Well, is there a first? A second the motion. Let's call the roll.
V. Manuel Perez.
Aye.
Aye. Grove. Aye. Bell. Block. Aye. Wessel. Abstain. Morrell.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Bill passes.
Thank you.
Your bill moves forward, Mr. Morrell. Thanks for bringing this bill forward. So we got a couple more pieces of legislation, and if I can have Madam Vice Chair to take over the hearing here. And I'd like to present these bills.
$12.55 or $8.94.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you going to be presenting, you have a couple, so are you going to be presenting 1255 first or 894? 894 first?
We're going to be presenting 894 first.
Okay.
Let me just find it here. Here. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. AB 894 establishes the framework for a program to assist California manufacturers by offering direct loans as well as guarantees on loans and lines of credit. The purpose of the program is to serve as a deal closer fund to support the retooling and expansion of California's manufacturing facilities, resulting in the retention and creation of jobs. Manufacturing plays a crucial role in the California economy, contributing over $179 billion to the state's overall GDP, offering some of the highest wages for workers as well as supporting millions of small and mid-sized companies through their supply chains. Manufacturing, however, faces many challenges in remaining globally competitive. Since 2001, California lost over 633,000 manufacturing jobs. At the national level, the President has put forth a manufacturing strategy and has followed it up with increased funding in key science and technology programs, including a $130 million initiative for clean energy innovation hubs. His 2011 and 2012 proposed budget has both new initiatives and increased funding in existing programs that have traditionally supported the manufacturing sector, including $7.4 billion for Startup America, a new initiative to support entrepreneurship, regional technology clusters, and regional innovation projects, $284 million, representing a 11.4% increase over the current year in program assistance funding for the Economic Development Administration, and $142 million, representing a 14% increase over the current year, and the Hollingsworth Manufacturing Extension Partnership for the purpose of the reinventing domestic manufacturing and creating jobs. Congress is also expected to take actions to encourage manufacturing, including the reintroduction of the IMPACT Act that would provide revolving loan funds for our state to establish their manufacturing program. AB 894 would set up the framework for accessing these types of funds. If ERA serves as any sort of model for federal funds, states may have as little as 6 weeks to put together a nationally competitive application. Without action, California could lose out on key federal dollars. The bill is sponsored by the California Labor Federation, and I have Sarah Flox with me to help answer any questions. There is no known opposition to the bill, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand that you have amendments for your measure as well.
I believe we do, and we will take the proposed amendments.
Thank you. I brought also to you, I wanted to raise one more question. In the bill specifically, which we talked about last night, the items were separated by F, 1, 2, and 3 on page 17, and then there was a separate item G. I was wondering if you would accept the amendment to change 1, 2, and 3, and 4 to change G to the number 4.
I'd like to allow our sponsors to answer that question, see if they're willing to take the amendment.
Yes, Madam Chair, we'd be happy to take that amendment.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, I had grave concerns about supporting the bill because I believe in free market enterprise, but with your willingness to take those amendments and bring those forth, I appreciate that, and I'd be honored to support the bill.
Thank you.
Well,
Are there any witnesses, other witnesses in favor? Oh, sorry. Yes, Mr. Wayso.
Can you clarify the amendments, please?
Sure, please.
On the page or the section in which you...
Page 17.
In the committee has prepared a proposed amendment analysis and then a mock-up of the bill that reflects the amendment.
So it's page 17, Mr. Wessel. And
Which one is it? This one?
Towards the bottom of the page, number 37, section G. And after F.
I don't have a section G, I'm sorry. I don't have a G. Oh, on the bottom? Okay.
So after F, for example, a priority for a loan guarantee, or line of credit shall be given to those companies that do one of the following, and you have 1, 2, 3, and G would be a fourth.
Okay, well, maybe you call some testimony. I'll read this over.
Sure. Is there any other people in favor of the bill?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Sarah Flox from the California Labor Federation. We are very proud to co-sponsor this bill with the Machinists Union, and happy to say that we have the support of the California Manufacturers Association. So it is a labor management supported bill. This is part of a package of 5 bills that we are sponsoring this year to create and retain good jobs in California. As this committee well knows, California is facing a jobs crisis. We've lost 1.4 million jobs since the recession began. Investment in manufacturing is a very smart way to both spur short-term job creation and our economic recovery and lay the foundation for the state's future economic growth. Manufacturing has the highest multiplier effect of any industry. So for every 1 job that we are creating in manufacturing, where there's a multiplier effect of 2.5. So 2.5 other jobs are created in the broader economy. And California really has the potential to become a leader once again in manufacturing. We are already developing the products of the new economy, like the iPhone and solar panels and photovoltaic, and those should be manufactured here. One of the problems facing manufacturers, though, is the lack of access to capital that they need to retool, to expand, and to be able to start new enterprises. With the global economic crisis, banks have really tightened up lending, and venture capital is reluctant to invest in manufacturing. So we really feel that a revolving loan fund is a cost-effective and accountable way for the state to be able to invest and support manufacturing and to create and retain jobs in the state. The ability to access these low-interest loans will allow manufacturers to get the gap financing, the short-term financing they need, so they can access the contracts, that they can expand, they can retool, they do everything that they need to do to survive. And we also feel that this bill has important pieces, provisions in it to make sure that the jobs that are created are quality jobs. This bill is the first step to setting up a revolving loan fund in the state of California. We want to put the infrastructure in place so that we are able to access the funds that are available at the federal level that the author mentioned. Other states have already created revolving loan funds. The state of Pennsylvania set up a revolving loan fund. They used their ARA, their federal stimulus funds, to capitalize that loan to be able to attract high-tech manufacturing to the state. So we want to make sure that California is first in line and that we're prepared to rebuild our manufacturing sector. So we do feel that this bill lays the foundation for a smart and accountable job creation strategy. We'd like to thank the author and our co-sponsors, and we would urge your aye vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other members in support?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Shane Gussman on behalf of the California Conference of Machinists, the Teamsters, and the United Food and Commercial Workers in support of the bill.
Good morning. Cynthia Leon with the California Manufacturers and Technology Association. As Sarah mentioned, we are very proud to stand with our colleagues from the labor side on this bill. I think they've recognized the fact that manufacturing is an important part of this economy, and we appreciate the author continuing to push this issue forward. One of the things that we are seeing is that we do get our fair share of venture capital when it comes to innovation. We are creating a lot of products, but when it comes up to ramping up and fully scaling up, companies see too many costs in the state and are looking elsewhere. So this is just one step to the overall recovery of this state and the economy, and we have to be prepared for any potential funding that comes from the federal government. So again, we're very supportive of this bill. We appreciate all the effort that our colleagues have put forward to make manufacturing a priority again in the state, and we do believe we provide some of the best high-quality jobs that can really turn this economy around. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, are there any comments from committee? Mr. Block.
Yeah, Mr. President, I just want to say this is a great bill. To bring management and labor together on anything today is excellent, and it just makes sense to be ready in case we get federal funding. So I will move the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Block. Thank you, Mr. Wisso.
Mr. Wisso, did you have a comment, though?
Yeah, just briefly, I also want to congratulate you for bringing this forward, and hopefully we'll see the governor's signature on this very soon. We need access to capital in our state for our businesses to prosper. That's probably the #1 issue that we need to address, and you're really focusing on what the #1 issue in our state is to build stronger businesses. So just one comment, and I think this goes to the way we work on finance in our state. This would be another bill that would be much better served by being part of the iBank. I know I have a bill that's not going to the iBank either, but as we work on strengthening the role of the iBank in California, the infrastructure bank, rolling some of these programs into that would create more of a clearinghouse type of model that would be also more effective in making sure that people have access to these programs through one central clearinghouse. And maybe we can talk about that in the future as these programs do succeed and gaining strength and finding a way to keep these programs sustainable can be accomplished through the iBank. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wilson. If I may, we did have that hearing on the iBank, a couple of weeks ago, it seems like now. And we learned quite a bit as to how we can improve the iBank. And we did make a commitment that we will work together to see how we could reform the iBank. And I'm open to that conversation as it pertains to manufacturing. And the other thing is, I'd just like to say, in my close, if I may, everyone here, I think, remembers the days where everyone wanted a Schwinn bicycle, right? Schwinn bicycles were the thing to have when one was a kid, and if you didn't have one, maybe one was envious because another kid down the street might have a Schwinn bicycle. Well, in those days, Schwinn bicycles were made here in the state of California and were made in the United States of America. They were manufactured here. Unfortunately, nowadays, Schwinn bicycles are now made in China. They're no longer made in our backyard. And so my hope is that we can work with our manufacturing companies to continue to, as we move forward to recover, that we continue to build things here, which ultimately means higher wages for folks, more revenues for our local communities and for the state of California. And so with that, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like I said earlier, I am going to support your bill because of the things that we talked about in the amendments that we did. I know that manufacturing jobs in general have left California because of the high tax structure and the excessive over-regulations. That's part of the concern as well. I have great concerns, and I shared those concerns with you about giving preference to certain organizations and not establishing a free market base. So I really appreciate you accepting those amendments. And did we make clarification that we were going to change it to number 4, or is that it was accepted?
Yes, sir, it was accepted.
Yeah, thank you, sir, very much.
Sarah still here, or is she? It was accepted, right? Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
So, call the roll.
V. Manuel Perez.
Aye.
Aye. Grove.
Aye.
Aye. Bell. Block. Aye. Hueso.
Aye.
Aye. Morel. Aye. 5-0.
Thank you. I think we have one last bill. Madam Chair?
Bill 55, Mr. Chair, would you like to present that bill?
Sure. Okay. So according to reports by Vertcom Consulting and the Alliance for Board Diversity, companies that have diverse boards perform better, are more innovative, and more effective. As an unprecedented number of baby boomers prepare to retire from the marketplace, many corporate boards will be seeking new members to help shape their businesses for the future. The number of Californians aged 65 or older is expected to increase to 75.4% between 2000 and 2020. Older Californians are the state's fastest growing age group. The California Budget Project estimates that by 2020, nearly 60% of the working age population in California will be comprised of Latinos, African Americans, and Asian Americans. Corporate leadership, however, has not kept pace with the changing demographics. A serious gap remains in the ethnic and gender diversity on corporate boards. AB 1255 will enhance access to information about the range of minority and or women candidates qualified to serve on corporate boards. This bill directs the Secretary of State to provide corporations with information of all known registries of potential board candidates. Thank you for hearing this bill, and I respectfully ask for aye vote, and I believe we have witnesses here in support. Here you go.
Good morning. I'm Beth McGovern, representing the California Commission on the Status of Women. We are in strong support of this bill. While women have made significant progress over the years in the business world, there is still a long way to go before equity is achieved on corporate boards, before there is real gender and ethnic diversity on those boards. A 2010 UC Davis study on California women business leaders found that women held only 10% of the board seats in the 400 largest public companies in California. Almost half of the companies had 0 women directors, and approximately 1/3 had only 1 woman director. Other research also reflects very small numbers of African Americans, Asians, and Latinos on corporate boards. I think it's fair to say that there is a serious lack of gender and ethnic diversity on corporate boards in California and also across the nation. There have been very small incremental increases in diversity in recent years, but progress is really extremely slow. Since a lot of positions on corporate boards, as the Assembly member mentioned, are expected to open up in the near future, this presents a great opportunity to increase the number of women and minorities on boards. And this bill will help to do just that by expanding the pool of qualified candidates that are accessible to corporations when they are recruiting board members. We think this bill is a very important step in achieving the diversity of corporate boards in California that better reflects our state's population and the talented workforce that does exist in California. We respectfully urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members in support? Any members in opposition?
I'll move the item.
We have a member in opposition to the bill?
A clarification.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Rhonda Pascal on behalf of Secretary of State Deborah Miller. And I believe that the Assembly member is going to take proposed amendments from our office, and just want to clarify for the committee that with the adoption of those amendments, that removes the Secretary's opposition, and certainly appreciate the willingness of the author and staff to work with us to address the Secretary's concerns.
And I believe the author is accepting those amendments.
Sure. I'm accepting those amendments, and to my understanding, these are the proposed amendments.
Correct.
Which refine the notice language by specifying that the Secretary of State shall provide a web link to the corporate governance website of the California Public Employees Retirement System and or California State Teachers Retirement System. And also delete the authority for the SOS to work with stakeholder groups on promoting the use of corporate board candidate registries. So with that being said, it does remove the opposition.
Mr. Hueso, you had a comment. I apologize.
I move the bill.
Is there a second? Second it? Any other comments? No good comment. Again, Mr. Chair, Mr. Morrell? Oh, again, Mr. Chair, I am going to support your bill. I don't think that the Secretary of State's office needs to get involved with corporations and how to set up boards, but I appreciate the opportunity to be able to work with you on bills that at least will provide a link for the individuals, if they choose to have access for it, can have access for it, but aren't mandated to have access for it. So thank you. Having said that, is there any other comments? Would you like to close?
I respectfully ask for a vote.
Will you call the roll, Ms. Mercedes?
V. Manuel Perez.
Aye.
Aye. Grove.
Aye.
Aye. Bell. Block. Aye. Hueso.
Aye.
Aye. Morrell. Aye. 5-0. Bill is out.
Chair.
Thank you, members. Just want to thank Madam Vice Chair for the support, Mr. Morrell as well for the support, my Democratic colleagues for the support. And I do believe that there were a couple folks missing. So I'd like to open up the roll once again for the consent calendar. Aye. Well, thank you. I do believe that's the end of our business for today. Let's leave the roll open for another 5 minutes or so. Make sure we get Mr. Bell.
He is on his way.
He's on his way. Well, thank you. And members, thank you very much. I know it's a busy day today, so we got through the work.
Good job.
In less than an hour. Good job, everyone. Thank you.